Today I'm going to break one of the golden rules in YouTube fitness. I actually broke this a couple of months back on Threads, and I had to spend hours justifying my statement. This could be just as bad as discussing politics at a family dinner. Look, I'm not here to tell you to never squat and deadlift again. And if I wanted to views, my title would be, "This is why you should stop squatting and deadlifting now." And I'll turn into Greg Doucette overnight. But instead, I'm going to give you my experience and tell you why I haven't squatted or deadlifted for 4 years. From the ages around 25 to 30, I would wake up with a stiff back. I would find it difficult day to day. Even sitting at a desk, my lower back would feel stiff. When I'd try pick something off the floor, it feels super stiff. So I thought there was an issue with my mobility. I thought that I had to stretch more, focus more on stretching, so I did that. I even took up yoga classes, purchased a lot of mobility routines, kept doing them, but nothing happened. I was still just as stiff. After some time and many conversations, I realized it wasn't my stiffness. And I'd actually experienced a lot of minor injuries that weren't actually painful, but I had experienced them in times where I was pushing my deadlifts and pushing my squats, trying to reach PRs, or I had been doing more volume with those particular exercises. Minor injuries aside, I had to take several weeks and even months off any exercises that put pressure on my lower back. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, I was lifting for 16 years at this point, and that's fairly significant considering I had no major injuries during this time period, loads of little minor ones, and mainly my lower back. And yes, I was trying my best to perfect my form in many different ways, looking at videos, looking at tape, getting advice from others. But at this point I was stubborn. These lifts were good lifts for me. I could lift a lot of weight, but they were clearly causing me problems. So I cut them out altogether. And when I did that, I've not had a problem with my lower back since, and my mobility is better than ever. But Adam, you shouldn't feel like that. If you're doing them right, you must have been doing them wrong. Your form was probably off. Look, I'm sure you could poke holes in my form, but I did try my very best to perfect my form. I hired coaches. I've done the personal training certification 4 times now. I did everything I could at that time to make sure my form was the best it could be. Like anything in life, I like to look at risk versus rewards, especially since I've got older. Both squats and deadlifts are complex compound movements. They involve multiple muscle groups. Yes, they're efficient in terms of the load, in terms of how many different muscles you can load at any one time. However, being complex, together with the heavy weight, this takes its toll on the body in terms of fatigue accumulation and overall recovery as well. The complexity also makes it really hard to master the form, which can lead to injuries when just something small is out of place. Yes, if you look at it from a muscle building standpoint, the squat is better than the deadlift. It's essentially a leg press with a lot of core bracing. A lot of muscles get hit while doing the squats. But let's face it, like I said earlier, it's complicated. It's hard to master. There's many different things you need to pay attention to: foot placement, bar path, mobility, which mean that if something's off, this can increase your chances of injury. I'm not saying you're definitely going to get injured. It can increase your chances. Now let's look at the standard deadlift. It doesn't particularly overload any muscles. It works multiple muscle groups, and yes, you're able to move a lot of weight. You're able to create a lot of force through that movement, and you could say it's very practical, it's very functional. So are a lot of exercises. Like I said earlier, I'm not saying don't do them, but I'm saying that, again, another complex movement. It's difficult to do well all the time, especially when you start increasing your weight, and there can be many breakdowns in form. It's not the best move for hypertrophy. It doesn't build one area specifically. It doesn't overload one area specifically. And yes, of course, you can build a lot of muscle doing squats and deadlifts as your fundamental lifts. But the issue is when people force them into their program thinking they have to do them because Ronnie Coleman did them, or because some other a different bodybuilder did them. So they feel like they have to do them, and they're necessary to build muscle. and they are by no means necessary. Another issue is what Mike Israetel talks about often, the stimulus to fatigue ratio.
To figure out what the stimulus to fatigue ratio is and how you can best use it to enhance your gains in hypertrophy in the gym.
How much are you getting out of these exercises versus how much fatigue are they costing you? It's not that efficient. There's also another issue. These exercises take a long time to set up. To actually warm up and prepare for these exercises can take upwards of 30 minutes. So as you can imagine, for me, the risk to reward ratio did not add up. But one caveat, I am 6'4" without heels. So you're probably wondering, Adam, what do you do now? If you don't do squats, you don't do deadlifts, what do you do? So for overall leg development, I sometimes do leg presses, but mostly Bulgarian split squats is what I do. That's one of my staples in my routine. It pops up twice a week. And otherwise, like for hip extension, I like hip thrusts. And for hip hinging, I like good mornings in the Smith machine, particularly because it's a bit safer. And you might be like, oh yeah, but the risks there. The Smith machine is, if you do it properly, it's a lot less risky in my view. Look, I know what you're gonna say. The science doesn't say, any exercise is more risky than others, but for me and my personal experience and working with others, I have found this to be the case. Sometimes I'll add in some hyperextensions with a rounded back to hit my glutes more. And remember, I haven't been squatting or deadlifting for a good 4 years. Having said that, I want you to remember one thing. Fitness, health and fitness is all about finding what works for you. If you're squatting, you're deadlifting, you're not getting injured, you're feeling good, you're making progress, keep doing them. I'm not saying to remove them. But if you're in my shoes and you constantly feel your lower back or you constantly tweak your lower back or your knees are feeling a bit funny, then maybe it's time to make some changes. So the main reason I did this, I want you to know there's not one size fits all. You don't have to do squats. You don't have to deadlift. You don't have to do many things. That's all for this video. I'm sure you're gonna have many questions and comments, so drop them below. And if you wanna send any deeper questions or deeper messages to me, even if it's hate mail, just go to Instagram at AdamScottFit. I'm on there quite often. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for all future videos. And if you want to, the bell notification too. That will let you know when I post a video in the future. Have the best day ever, and we'll talk soon.